Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I'm so excited to be with you here today. We've got a varsity creative in the house that I'm really excited to introduce you to. But before we do, I want to give some love to our sponsors making it all happen. Colorado Clownfish Swim School, swim lessons and water safety training for all ages. They believe in life skills through sports, so go waterproof your family today. You can check them out at coloradoclownfish.com. Very passionate about water safety over here. Our very favorites, Plantiva. They are delivering our products you can trust, delivering results you can feel. You can check them out at plantiva.com. Without further ado, I want to introduce the one and only Antonio Michael Downing. Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila.
Hi, Kristen. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I do want to read this Varsity Humans bio because he has covered so much ground, and then we're going to jump right in. So let's start there to make sure the people know a bit of the resume. Antonio Michael Downing is an Afro-Caribbean Canadian author, artist, and speaker whose work explores identity, resilience, and the courage to reinvent yourself. Born in Trinidad and raised in Canada, he traded a successful career in tech sales for his true calling as a writer and musician, known as John Orpheus. He is the author of the memoir Saga Boy and the novel Black Cherokee, and the host of Canada's Top Book radio show. Anthony, let's jump in. Did I say that correctly, John Orpheus?
Yeah, John Orpheus is my altar boy, as I call him. I basically, there's like Clark Kent and Superman, so yes. He's my Superman. He's got all the strengths and none of the flaws that I have. So I invented him just so I could be a little bring out a different side of myself in music.
I love that. When I immediately read that, I was like, "Oh, Beyonce and Sasha Fierce." Like, I get it. Like, let's go.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Well, before we get into the mission and the journey, and thank you for sending both books. I love the idea of both of them. It's like kind of coming home to yourself. So I want to unpack that. But before we do that, I do think who we are is in the stars very early as young humans. So tell me about like young Antonio. Was this kind of in the trajectory when you reflect?
Oh, man. Well, thank you for that. I also believe that. I believe that, there's a famous saying among developmental psychologists that the famous psychologist Adler, he said, if you show me the child at 6, I'll show you the person at 60, because basically our personalities are formed when we're very young. So my personality, well, let me paint you a picture. So it's a Caribbean island of Trinidad, so way south in the Caribbean, just off the coast of Venezuela. It's like a tropical rainforest. I live in the south of the island, so very rural, a one-road village, going into the jungle, crocodiles in the river, parakeets in the trees. And I grew up with my grandmother, and it was just her and me and my older brother. And she really taught me everything. She was my whole world. She raised me. But the big gift she gave me was how to sing and how to read. So she was always singing, usually hymns. And so I just got used to, just singing all the time as a way to turn the things I couldn't say into good feelings, like spinning it into gold, kind of. Like when she was sad, she would sing and then she would feel better. And I'd be like, oh, interesting. And then the biggest one was reading. So she taught me how to read because her eyes were bad. So she wanted me to be her eyes to read her Bible for her. But so she would be like, spell the word, use it in a sentence. Okay, now keep going. And so I would read like Psalms and Proverbs, these really poetic, like lyrical parts of the Bible for her. And that's how I learned how to read. And probably the most famous incident of my childhood, if you ask my family, will be when I was 4 and she found me behind the house talking to myself. because I was a very weird child. And I felt a ways about it. And she just said, "Well, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm practicing my speech." And she said, "What speech?" I said, "Well, Grandma, I wrote a speech about the difference between need and want, and I have to practice." And she said, "Well, why do you have to practice?" She said, and I said, "Because the people need to know." And, it could have ended there, Kristen. And I would feel like, oh, really embarrassed. I'm just being a weirdo kid behind the house. But she did something really special. For the next 6 months, when neighbors would walk by, she would walk out to the road, say hi to them, and she would call me from wherever I was. She'd like, "Come, come, come, do the speech." And and that was and she would get me to do the speech for her neighbors. And so it really was a really important thing for me as my confidence as a kid, because it encouraged me. And the story, what it taught me though, is that it's not the thing that happens to you, it's the story you tell yourself about it. So the story I was telling myself was, weird kid talking to himself behind the house. I got to stop doing that. But by her doing that, what she said is, no, you're a smart kid with something that people need to say, need to hear, and you have things to say. And well, I'm here with you on Turmeric and Tequila because I'm still saying it.
Grandmother knew way early, man.
There you go.
That's what they do. That's incredible. So I mean, what made you even want to write the speech? Did you feel like you had to perform, or did something on your heart?
I think I was reading, I was a very early reader. So my grandma taught me how to read when I was it was around that time. And then, the people I would see, we would go to church and I would see these preachers just, read stuff and then talk about it, and they'd have ideas about it. And I'm not I'm not a regular churchgoer anymore, but I think there was something about having some ideas and captivating people and talking to them with it that really were like, oh, I need to do that. And so I think I was just sort of behind the house trying to write my own sermon, basically. So there you go.
I love that. It's so funny. And I wonder if this resonates with you, but my young self was just dead set on many things. But like I was going to go play D1 no matter what. And I was a Colorado kid playing an East Coast sport. Like I had no business doing that. But in my mind, I was so convinced, and I made it happen. I turned down scholarships. I walked into a team. The point is, at this point now, I'm 45. I often channel that young self, thinking like, I had the audacity, I had the belief. No one was telling me anything at 18/0 years old. Do you channel that young human now to this day?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think I feel that the best people and the most satisfied people are the people who can have a deep relationship with their inner child. Because again, that's when we were fully formed, and that's before we had any financial motive or any fear of anything, or no one told us we couldn't do it. So that is the purest, rawest essence of who you are and what you want to do. And so I always try to stay in touch with that. In fact, I'm a journaler, so every morning I'll journal, and I frequently will take mornings when I'm journaling and I'll write a letter to my younger self. Because I really believe in that. Because can you imagine, like, we were so fearless, we were so ambitious, we were so full of hope and full of joy and enthusiasm. And some days I as adults, we struggle to even recall even an iota of that energy. And so I really get a lot of fuel from staying connected to my younger self. But I'm curious, what sport did you play, or did you want to play back then?
Yeah, well, I had 3 younger brothers, 2 active parents, so I got thrown into everything. And lacrosse is really what stuck, because again, this is 25 years ago, longer than that. Lacrosse was not big in like the quote unquote Midwest out here in America, and then so it was very Northeast. So anyways, that's the sport that stuck. So I did end up playing for actually 5 years in college because I tore my ACL. But it was, to your point, it was such a growth experience. And then I had identity loss when I tore my ACL, because if I wasn't a lacrosse player, who was I? And so that was, I'm kind of glad that happened when it did. I think I was 18, 19. And this is before mental health, before any, like, we had any tools or combos. So it was a really hard journey for me early, but it was powerful because I think it set me up for bigger things, to come. Does that resonate with you? Do you feel like you had an early breakthrough that kind of switched the trajectory?
Yeah, well, I think playing sports, and in my work with CBC, I recently interviewed Kia Nurse, one of the Toronto Tempo players. So we
Okay.
just got our WNBA franchise, and
Let's
so
go.
yeah, it's so awesome. And so I was in conversations with folks about, how sports can like transform your psychology, because there's such a euphoria
Mhm.
around the WNBA. Like,
Yes.
women are bringing their daughters and their mothers, and everyone's really excited because, and I think partially it's because, like, and I'm sure you're used to this, but folks haven't seen, it's awesome to see women be celebrated and make money and have this whole thing, and it's not about how they look, it's about how
Right.
skilled they are, how their resilience, their talent, and so I think it's a really mind-blowing, almost spiritual, euphoric energy. A
Mhm.
lot of the folks there don't even like sports, they're just there
Right.
because
Right.
there's a vibe there. And so I was thinking about the transformative power of sports, and I thought about, myself. If you met me, Kristen, at 15, you would say, this is a kid who's destined for trouble.
Okay.
I had, I had, my parents were never around. My dad was a felon. My stepmom was working as a secretary, trying to raise three teenage boys, eating her out of house and home every day. I was going to school hungry, so I was having like hangry blood sugar like incidents where I would lash out at people, but mostly when I look back. So my reputation was, oh, he's an angry kid, but actually I was just hungry.
Yeah.
And I started playing basketball, and my coach, I had two coaches, one who thought I was trouble and one who was like, no, 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 he's a good kid, he just hasn't had some of the guidance that these other kids have had, and it's our job to give it to him. And so, and that coach, I just had brunch with him on Sunday, we're still
Nice.
friends all this time later. And so it really, the game taught me, first of all, I soaked up a lot of parenting secondhand from my teammates and my coaches.
Mhm.
Second of all, it taught me that whatever I think I can do more than that. And third of all, it taught me how to break a task down, even though it's a big, gigantic task. I write books. Books are, it takes, each of those books behind you is like 95, 96,000 words. And so it's a serious endeavor. And it takes a long time, and it's multifaceted. Well, I used the same technique I used to fix my jump shot when
Yeah.
I was 16. And so, how do you break something down? How do you use drills and daily ritual to sort of gradually build up your skill level? I used all of these things every single day of my life. In fact, it's been years since I shot a three-pointer, but I can tell you every single day, I think like a point guard every day of my life. And so I think it's very transformative, it's very powerful. There are dark sides to every sport, but I
Mhm.
think fundamentally, because of the WNBA, I've been celebrating this kind of transformative, empowering aspect of it, because
Yeah.
literally 15, you would say this kid is going to end up working in a factory, some kind of criminal run-in with the law, some kind of addiction. And then flash forward 5 years later, I'm playing point guard for University of Waterloo, and I'm one of the people that the university puts in their brochure to recruit young high schoolers. So,
Nice.
and the difference is all because I played basketball and was coached by really great coaches.
Hey, I mean, well, shout out to mentors. I think that's where I love coaches because they're not your parents, they're not your friends, but it's another adult figure that really sees you and says, I believe in you in some capacity. And I think that
Yes.
feeling can change a kid's life. And usually if a kid, I mean, a kid is a kid, like if they're acting out or you never know what's going on in their world for real. So I think most great coaches can customize their approach to each kid and understand that like every kid's accessible if you can find the right angle
Yeah.
and the right way, and it can change everything. And I got to give a special thank you to including the NBA or WNBA on your show, because WNBA is, I won't go down this rabbit hole, but they're beyond sports, social, racial justice. They're
Yeah.
standing up
Yeah.
politically. I mean, they're just an
Yeah.
entire movement within women's sports, but within the world.
Yeah.
And it's huge that you
Yeah.
give some attention on your show as well.
Absolutely. I think it's a social movement because
Mhm.
anything that's that powerful with and happening with women is that powerful and happening in the world. Because come
Mhm.
on, like that's I mean, we were
Huge.
we were all raised by women, and women have such a powerful function in our society that it can't help but I think it's important to everyone, to that this
Absolutely.
is happening. And
Absolutely.
and the professional women's hockey league as well, because in Toronto we love hockey. So I've met some of the players there and interviewed them as well.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's really awesome. It's really awesome.
That's so good for you. Well, I think at this stage in the game, 2026 is kind of wild. Every year's wild, but I do think identity and really understanding who we are as humans, as individuals, is more important than ever, because you've got to be able to hold your ground with social media, with politics, with sports, with humans around you, crazy humans around you. Like, you really got to know you. And I think one of the takeaway from both of your books was just like about coming home to yourself, and that's what it made
Mhm.
me feel more than anything. And I want to know good words from you, having the experience that you do. How did you like come home to yourself, and how do you stay there? How do you stay grounded and stay in it?
Yeah, these are really powerful questions, Kristen. I think we are all at some stage of becoming.
Mhm.
And some of us, we think we're there, but of course something happens in life, life events, death in the family, injury, disappointment in business or in relationships, and suddenly there we are again, trying to figure out who are we and what do we have to offer the world. um, I think, and I've thought a lot about it. And as you say, both of these books are really, one's fiction and one's a memoir, but the truth is they're both about that same topic. I would say the first thing I always do tell people to do is there's an exercise. Because writing a memoir was really awesome, right? I got to sit and I did 250 hours of interviews of people from my life and remembered everything and documented it and then wrote the book. Most people don't have the time to do that, but I wanted to find a way where people could have that. Like, the writing Saga Boy was really important to my coming back to myself.
Mhm.
I was at a point in my life where I call it the time of the jackets. I was trying on possible futures like as if they were jackets, and nothing seemed to fit. And so I thought, oh, you know what? Until you make peace with your past, you're not really going to be able to design your future.
Mhm.
So what I came up with as a way to get the benefits of a memoir without needing the time and effort and energy I took, is to just write the story of your life in 10 sentences. Yeah,
Okay,
just
that sounds
just
really
write.
hard.
Right, exactly. Like, write the story of your life in 10 sentences. Every sentence is like a scene from a movie of your life, and it should reveal something important about you. And
Oh.
if yeah, exactly. And it's a challenging exercise, but I find what we find is most people don't look back. So when you say who you are or what you're becoming, you don't really have a full view, because usually we're thinking about recency bias, right? We're thinking about what's happening now. When you do this exercise, it grounds you in things that have happened before, and you can see patterns in where you're going, and it gives you a story of you and who you are and what you're doing. And it might change, but I think that's a great starting point. Be honest, do it in 10 sentences, be honest. That's the first rule. Because, if you can't be honest to yourself, I mean, you're in trouble. I also tell people, don't avoid problems, because we tend to want to be like, oh no, that was a terrible thing. I didn't like how it felt the first time, so I'm not going to think about it now. But the truth is, problems reveal character. As a writer of novels, I can tell you, if you're watching a movie for 10 minutes, whether it's a romance or a sci-fi or a thriller or whatever, if there were no problems in the first 10 minutes, you would turn it off.
Yeah.
Right? Problems is what reveals character. And that's also true of our lives. So I would suggest to everyone, just do that exercise. Write the story of your life in 10 sentences. Be honest. Don't avoid problems. And then just think about it. And another next level you can do is just ask yourself what each sentence teaches you. Like, give yourself a word so that each sentence says about you, and just write. So at the end of each sentence, you'll have a bunch of adjectives, let's say. And then at the end of 10 sentences, you'll have 30, 35 adjectives, and some things will reoccur. And do it like a word map and just go circle the words that occur the most.
Oh, okay. I love that.
Right? Yeah. And then and what we're trying to do is ground you in your story. And it sounds really simple, but the truth is, a lot of people are shocked when they do it. Things come up they didn't think of. Things they were thinking of as negative, because a lot of times, something bad happens and we think, oh, that was so terrible. But when we look back, a lot of good came out of it. So when you get perspective, it's like, oh, actually, I didn't like that happening, but I'm kind of glad it happened, So,
Yeah.
and then there are the opposite too. There's things that we think of that were very fun, and now we look back and we go, I could have skipped that.
For real.
Yeah, so that's a big part of how I stay grounded, and really for me, it's the trifecta of physically being active and always moving your body. Breath, I think, is really important. I think it's underrated. How can we underrate breath? I mean, it's literally the source of life, but I think we do. The Buddhists say that the breath is the bridge between the body and the mind and the brain. Right. And so I like to start every morning with like deep breathing meditation exercises, just to connect that and just really just calm down my nervous system and set me up for success. I also like to start with journaling. As I mentioned, I like to write because I feel like sometimes our subconscious takes over the pen. I use a pen and paper because I have a little book for it. But however you do it, but your subconscious can speak through that and you can learn things. And I feel like all of these are, for me, grounding exercises that root me in the story of where I've been and the story of where I'm going. Like my grandmother taught me when I was young, it's not what happens, it's the story you tell yourself about what's happening. And so these are ways to be conscious of that story and actually realize you have the power to shape it and to reframe it and to rebuild it, which I think is probably the greatest unused power we have as human beings, is that we can actually, in tech sales, we call it positioning, right? So we position the story in a way that empowers us as opposed to disempowers us. I mean, this is all therapists do, right? You come in with one story and they try to help you find a better one.
There you go. I love that your grandmother had the wise words early, and then here comes tech sales, and it puts it into sales format, and it's all kind of the same thing, but it's just wild how powerful and like empowered we should feel if we just have a few tools and shift of mindset. And can control, I mean, we can't control a lot, but we can control a few things. And one of those things are our minds. You did say something that stood out to me and something I continue to work on. I do a lot in human optimization, health and wellness. And I always laugh at this because as we kind of spoke before we got on the mic, this idea of like, you know, living clean, eating well, doing all things. But then it's like, how's your heart? How's your soul? Like, what's this whole human approach of things? And I think that the piece of letting go is something I know, but I have to continue to work on and let go of. And I heard some quote of like, you got to fall in love with your past, but you've also got to fall in love with your future. And the fall in love with the past has always been harder for me. Do you have, were there points where you've had to consciously let specifically go? Or and is this something you still have to work on to this day?
Yeah, ongoing forever. It's we are always people always think of the past as this thing from, this is one of the themes of my novel Black Cherokee. We think of the past as gone and distant, but if you think about it, we're always thinking about the past. My grandmother is long dead since I was 11 years old. And when I started noticing how much I talk to her every day, like not about like old conversations, but about things that are happening now. And then we have futures that we are imagining in our future, right? We're visioning out futures. Some may happen, some may not. Some of the past that we think about, like sometimes, have you ever thought about something you used to really wish would happen and it didn't happen, but you still think about it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we're living in this place where even the past that didn't happen is present, and all the future things we're thinking of are present. And so there's kind of this, I kind of see us in this place where the past and the present are constantly happening. And really, that's a real sort of mind shift for me. And what it allows me to do is to realize that we're engaged in a deep conversation with it. It's not this distant, terrible thing. And I would say, you know, like the famous philosophical concept, amor fati, which is a Nietzsche's concept of you know, a love your fate, basically is what it means. So it's kind of like the idea is, you should get to a point of relationship with your life that if you were born again, you wouldn't choose to change anything. You would live it all over just like, and I'm like, whoa, that's heavy, Nietzsche.
Dude, I'm exhausted. I don't know if I can do this again.
Yeah, that's a big ask. But yeah, but could you get to a point where you're like, wow, like I see it from with enough perspective that actually I would, the ups and downs, whatever, because again, it's not what happens, it's the story you tell yourself about it. So yeah, I wrestle with the past all the time, but I like to see it more like, not like it's distant and I need to, you know, forget about it. I more look at it like it's present and I need to be in conversation with it. It's like the past is like a person that's always hanging around with you, but you never talk to them. And so I try to make it so that no, I actually engage with those thoughts, and I think about them, I journal about them. You know, I might even talk to them. As I mentioned, I like to talk to myself. I'm my own best friend. So, you know, but by engaging with them, I think you have it, rather than letting go, you just have a better relationship with them. You know, it's like, you know, you might have a dispute with a family member, but man, they're going to be there your whole life. So you can't really, you know, sometimes you got to let go, but much better would be if you could just reframe the conversation in a way that is more positive. And I think I really believe in that.
So well said. That's hilarious. You brought up Nietzsche. I would never say it right, but my brother years ago, he actually got us iPads with Amor Fati on the back, and he's super smart. This was like when we were like 20. So anyways, that's wild. It's been a consistent theme that's come up in different spaces in my life. So that's wild you referenced that, but I'm with you. And I do think it's a powerful thing. to want to redo it all. But I completely understand the ideology.
It's
And
hard.
I get it. But you do, I think that is the ultimate surrender of like, you just trust what's going to happen. You show up,
Yeah.
do your things, but then you got to let go just enough for it to happen. Since we segued in a little bit, why don't you tell us a little bit about each book and who is this ideally for? Let's maybe start with Black Cherokee since you just referenced it.
Yeah, for sure. So Black Cherokee, the finalist for the Amazon First Novel Award, AA.
Okay,
Shout out. I'm out here. No, it's a novel, so it's a story, and it's a fictional story about a young girl who's born both Black and Cherokee in South Carolina, and she's kind of caught in this stream of history that she doesn't understand. Like we're all born into families and towns and countries that have histories that we don't know. We're just trying to do our best, and that's her situation. Both these communities she belongs to kind of reject her because they're kind of like, oh, you're not Cherokee enough because your hair is curly, and the Black people are like, oh, you're not Black enough because you're praying to the river, and we don't do that. So, and so she has to, it's a coming of age where she has to figure out how to be. And it's really a lot about these questions we've been talking about who are you? How do you define a self? How did that process of becoming, how do we choose and struggle through, and what are the pieces that get us from being in one state to transforming to another? I think it's something we've all gone through at one point, and I think it's something we all will go through again, because as I mentioned, I mean, we all have these moments in life where it's like, oh, we gotta make a change. And so Saga Boy, my memoir, was my moment for making a change, because I was, I guess I was middle-aged. I had played music my whole life. I was also working in tech sales on Bay Street, which is like Canada's Wall Street. And and I just felt like I didn't know how to make my way forward. And so that whole jacket's like, oh, this doesn't fit. Okay, let me try another. Oh, this doesn't fit. And so I kind of decided I needed to make peace with my past. And so this is me trying to do something we rarely ever get to do, which is look back and see how I became who I became. And really, it's a deep meditation on, making those choices and actually making sense of our history. It's basically that 10-sentence exercise, but over, over 300 pages. And I take you back to Trinidad and the history of the island and how my people ended up there and my grandmother. And, really one of the things is understanding what your parents went through really helps you, like, forgive them for not being superheroes. We thought you were super, but you're not. You're just people. And so I went back and spent time and understood, how did they grow up? And so it's really a beautiful, for anyone that's interested in, again, how does a person become, and how do we make those choices? And it's more my personal story, so you'll get a lot of the tropics, a lot of the tropical island of Trinidad and our crazy culture, and but also a lot of sports and basketball and a lot of creativity, because my answer to who I was the people need to know, so I need to create, I need to write. Like that boy that my grandmother found talking behind the house, I needed to become a man, the grown version of that. And this is Saga Boy's the story of that.
I love it so much. It's two beautiful pieces with ever-present themes that I think are important on so many levels in this day and age, probably more than ever. So definitely go check those out. And I got to know, because from one creative to another, I have this weird intuition and pull that I want to build a choir, which is funny because I don't read music. I love music, but it's a weird thing. It's just here. So I don't know how that manifests, but I do think creativity is like the answer to most things. So I want to hear about the music and John Orpheus Orpheus. Give us like an overview on how this manifested for you.
We can build a choir right now, Kristen.
Let's go. I
Let's
can't
go.
sing, but I got energy for you.
Well, you don't need to sing. You just need rhythm, and we're good.
Okay.
We can do this. Yeah, it came from my grandmother again. Like she's the kind of source of she's the source of my whole stream. She would always sing, and she would sing like these songs that really moved her emotionally in these profound ways. Um, and they would transfer whatever feeling she was feeling into something happy and light and fill up her tank so she could go and help people and live a good life, even though her life was tough at times. So I would have never remembered her music if you'd asked me, sing one of the songs she used to sing. I'd be like, I don't know. But whenever I felt the emotion she felt when she would sing it, like the song she'd sing when she was sad, if I got sad as a teenager, long after she died, suddenly I'd be singing the song as if I like knew, and I knew all of it. And so the emotion kind of activated a part of me, and I really enjoyed that. And so I started making music. I started playing instruments. I played clarinet in band, and then saxophone, and then the big string bass. And then once I got to university, I took literature, but I started starting bands. And so we did, blues rock bands, like, blues cover bands. And I started, of course, I'm in literature. So I just started writing songs. I thought, oh, well, let me put these words to this music. And and I toured a lot. I toured across the country. But the interesting thing with me is that every time I would have a new band, I would kind of pick an alter ego for the band, because I thought, it's kind of like if you're in a punk band, a militant punk band, it's like, oh, well, I need some army surplus with some tags on it. And I called myself Mike Danger,
Oh my
because
God.
to me, wearing an outfit that fit the music also included, making up a nickname that fits the music. And so
Yeah.
when I went to Memphis and I saw Al Green preach, the old soul
Oh.
singer, he's a
Oh yeah.
preacher. He has a
Yeah.
church and he preached. And so I came back and I said, no, I'm not Mike Danger anymore. I'm Molasses. I sing soul music.
Oh my
And
God.
so,
Okay.
yeah. And so I kind of, for me, and people always say, well, who's the real you? But, in Trinidad, we have something called Carnival, which is kind of like Mardi Gras, right?
Yeah.
Where you dress up in these costumes and people brings out all these personalities. So I grew up feeling like um, a mask wasn't a place to hide. It was a place to reveal a truth. So
Hey.
so the mask is actually something that gives you a door to access a part of yourself, a true part of yourself that you couldn't do it otherwise. And so my boldest, baddest self was this guy, John Orpheus, who I was just like, man, I don't know if I have the courage to be a pop star and to be all out there like that. But I think a part of me does. And so I took that part and I invested it into this character. And a lot of people would say, well, that's not real. But I'm like, no, that's such a true part of myself. It's even more true because it's been denied existence. And so now that it's finally getting a place, like, just like the vibe at the WNBA games.
Yeah.
Now that people are finally seeing that, because it's been so repressed, it creates a kind of euphoria. And so that's what John Orpheus became for me. And so, it's beautiful, and it's theater, and and to be honest, now that I look back, from a mental health point of view, I really needed to be those characters in those bands at those times, because they allowed me to express and get out things that if I left them inside, they might have destroyed me.
Hey. Yeah, so powerful. So well said. I love the mask. And that's kind of like turmeric and tequila. Seemingly opposing things can harmoniously coexist even within ourselves. And I so believe it because yeah, we do wear many hats and like many you can be all the things and accessing those angles of ourself. I think are so increasingly important. So that's awesome that the upside of social media and like podcasting and conversations and shows that like our young humans can see this and then embrace it and maybe not fight it maybe the way we did or do and they can just be
Hopefully. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think we're always changing our clothes and becoming new people, right? You go out, you go to work, you go out for a night on the town, you go to a funeral, like you're always dressing differently and acting differently. And I think this is a great power that we have as human beings. And I hope that people feel more it's very empowering to embrace it, and I really hope that people do because I feel hopefully in this time, like who knows, but we're both here on the podcasting and talking, and in the hope that people will catch the message and be inspired.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, at this point in the game, you've done a lot. You've seen a lot of things. I know in some capacity you're really just getting started. But what is success to you at this point?
Whew, that is a great question. I I mean, it sounds basic, but I always say I just want to wake up every day inspired, on
Mm.
fire. I want to wake up excited for what I get to do today. And as long as that's the case, I feel like that's my measure of success. And if I can, as many days as I can string together where I can say that, I think I'm winning.
Hey, let's go. I have to say this. This is probably when I built a choir, but in Sister Act 2, when Whoopi Goldberg's talking to Lauryn Hill, and she's like, I want to go to the Ice Capades, and Lauryn Hill makes a look. She's like, don't mock the Ice Capades. They were very cool. But she's like, if you want to be a writer and every day you wake up and that's all you think about, you want to be a writer and you're inspired. Like, as you say that, that's all I'm thinking. It's so true. If you just can maintain that inspiration, like I identify with that so much, like that keeps a flame going for whatever it is you want to do, that you are that thing. So I'm
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, most definitely. And again, I got it from sports, like doing being good at writing, like even being bad at writing, but finishing a book, even a bad book, is hard. It's really difficult. And so I think we really have to connect with our purpose and our why we're doing it, and we got to get up every day and show up for it, because really, like most things in life, it requires great effort over time, right? So it
Mhm.
requires you to show up day in, day out, month in, month out. Yeah, at this point in my career in music and books, it's like year in, year out. And yeah, I really think you have to have a deep connection with your purpose, what I call your why. Why are you doing it? Because there are a lot of reasons to do it, but I can tell you, with me, everything that I'm doing at some point gets hard. And when it gets hard, you're going to ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And you better have a good reason, or you're going to get really, morale is going to dip
Yep. Yep.
if you don't have a good reason. And so I spend a lot of time just connecting with you. What's my purpose? Why am I here? How does this fit in this story of my life that started in a little, like Caribbean island with my grandmother? What is the story that started there that I'm writing? And I think understanding that my purpose is to, like that little boy said, the people need to know this. There's something important. I need to go discover it. I need to put it together because people need to have it so that it can help them. And really, that's the summary of the inspiration that gets me up every single day.
Let's go. So well said. I have a million more questions for you, but we're gonna leave it at a cliffhanger so the people keep listening and go see you. Hit us with websites, social media handles. Where do you get the book? Any details?
Yeah, really easy. So AntonioMichaelDowning.com or on any of the social medias. Instagram is my favorite. So if you're trying to hit me up on something, Instagram's the place. I will get back to you definitely. It just might take me a bit depending on what's going on. The books, Saga Boy and Black Cherokee, you can find them anywhere, Barnes and Noble, anywhere. Look them online. They are very available, and yeah, I love hearing from people when they read my book. It's one of the great pleasures of writing is then talking to people and getting that feedback. It's always beautiful. So if you read the book, hit me up on IG. I would love to hear what you think.
Let's go seek it out. I want to give a thank you to our sponsors, Colorado Clownfish Swim School, swim lessons and water safety training for all ages. They believe in life skills through sports, so go waterproof your family today. Plantiva, products you can trust, delivering results you can feel. Check them out at plantiva.com. They are rooted in science and work like magic. Antonio, you're awesome. I'm so pumped that you're doing what you're doing, but the personal accountability and like being on the mic, showing up to speak to the people, I hope you keep doing it. I know you will. And I feel inspired. So thank you for being you and doing what you do. It was really a pleasure to have you on TNT.
You're also awesome, Kristen, and I wish you the same. Thank you for having me.
Amen. This podcast will be wherever you get your podcast. And of course, we'll have the YouTube video on YouTube. So have a great rest of the day. Y'all be out there. Take care of yourself and each other. We will see you soon. Cheers.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.